Hello all you fellow Power Appers, welcome back to another Power Apps Academy tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at how we can take variables or settings, user-specific settings, and carry them across sessions. So when a user goes into their Power App, they can see some settings that are personal to them, and when they close that app down, they open up again, they still get those specific settings which or variables that are related to them and not everyone else. So we're going to understand how we can create those and persist them across sessions. All we'll be using for this is SharePoint in the back end and Power Apps in the front end. So first of all, we'll hop over. I'll show you a demo of what we mean, including how this was used in a timesheet app as a real world example. And there might be lots of other types of settings you want to carry across in different apps, but this is just to give you some ideas of how it can be used, how it's done, and also some of the complexities in setting up how you update those variables using display mode variables and updates back to SharePoint and other types of variables. So it can get a little confusing, but there is a lot to learn in this video, so hopefully you can stick through it to the end. And also please do smash up that like button, it really helps our channel. The YouTube algorithm relies on likes and shares, so the more you can do that, the more it helps us over here to generate more content to help you guys. So I'd really appreciate it if you can smash up that like button right now. Alright, let's hop into the quick demo, but first of all, let's just pop over to our partner, Power Appify. Oops, let's just hit onto this screen. Please do check them out for loads of business ready templates at really great prices. You can download these, update them, and customize them for your business. So please do head over to powerappify.com and check them out. Right, let's head into the quick overview of what we'll be covering today, and then we're going to head into the tutorial. So before we going to look at exactly what we'll be doing today, I'm just giving you an example of how these settings can be used in this timesheet app. You can see here there's this contract that, let's say, my contracted hours that I need to work per day, which is 7.6, and the maximum hours if there's any sort of regulations which says an employee can't work more than X amount of hours per day. So I've got these two values in here which help calculate when time is added. If they work under the working hours, it just highlights that they've only worked 5 instead of 7.6 for whoever's approving it. And also if they've worked over, then some overtime is likely required for them, overtime payment or whatever, time in lieu. And then if they work over if I put in over 12 hours a day, it also says that I've exceeded the maximum number of days. Okay, so and if I click on update, then I go into the screen, and this is where it stores those values. So here's the company default values. Here's where I can update my values. So in today's session, we are going to be having a look at our own method of doing this, just to simplify it in its own app. So let's just bring this up. So in here, we just got this demo app. I'm just going to go into these admin settings. Over here, you can see I've put in some variables which says your contracted hours and your max hours. We've got the defaults, we've got the custom. So if I just play on here, if we go into edit, it will bring up these, and we're going to learn how to use these buttons to enable these to edit and then save and change the mode of this. Let's say I want my own hours. I've got a custom contract and I've got different working hours. Let's say that's 19. Then I can save. Cool. You can see those, I can't edit them now, and you can see this value of this variable string up here has changed with the latest, and that's all stored in SharePoint over here in a basic SharePoint table. Let's just refresh that to get the latest values in there. Cool. All right, it's got the default values in there, and then whoever logs in and they save their own settings, it will just be added into this SharePoint table, and that's what we'll be using with the app. So the values of those settings are always persistent in SharePoint. Doesn't matter when I come into the app and different days I close it down, I'm still going to get those settings that are specific to me. Cool. All right, so that's what we're going to be building today. I'm going to quickly hop over to the new demo app where we'll start from fresh and we'll create all those settings. So let's hop over to that now. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is just log into your Office Microsoft 365 portal, and then click on SharePoint, because we're going to want to create a new SharePoint list that we're going to need to use. And we're going to go into our specific SharePoint site. We want to do that, and we're going to go, let's wait for it to load. And then we're going to go into new list, and hopefully it will load sometime today. There we go. And we're going to call it table demo settings. Okay, I'll just create that. Okay, here we're going to leave title, so that's where we're going to either store the default or the name of the person's settings in there. And we just want, for this example, just remember, it could be whatever value you want it to be, but for this one we're using those contracted hours and max hours, but it could be absolutely anything, color preferences or setting preferences, or I don't know, whatever. Okay, we're going to go into numbers. Both of these are numbers, so we're going to put contracted hours. Just remember, never put spaces in here, just put an underscore, because if you put spaces in, it causes complexities in the apps later on. So we're just going to do that, and then another one for max hours. So let's go next, maximum hours. Save that. Cool. And then we're going to want to put a default in, because the default is for everyone, so that's something that we'll just add into this table. So whenever you want a default value, you'll just need to add it in. All the other user values will be saved by whenever a user logs in, and then they click on the save button. That will save a row specific for them. So let's say the value is 8 and 13. That's default. Okay, so there's our SharePoint list that we're going to be using. Let's head over to the app. So this is a demo app that I've used for some other demos. I'm just going to be creating a new screen on here that we will be using for this. What are we going to call it? So let's call it screen admin settings. So to create a new screen, you simply click on new screen, on a blank one, and we are going to rename it to screen admin settings. There we go. Oh, actually, sorry, I made a mistake. I'm not going to create a new screen because it doesn't have any of the screen default settings I wanted. Let me just delete that. So actually, let's go back to this main menu screen. I'm just going to duplicate that. You can see it's got all the heading and stuff that I want in there. So let's duplicate the screen. Cool. And we're going to change that to rename screen admin settings. Cool. That's better. Now I can just delete everything I don't want in there. Oh gosh. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to delete the whole screen. I just wanted to delete this button. Alright, cut. There we go. Okay, so we've got everything we want in there. Now, sorry, it's going to take a little bit of painful. I'll put a marker in here so you can jump ahead. Basically, we're going to be adding in all the the text boxes and the rectangles and all that kind of stuff. So this might be a little bit boring, but we're going to add it in just so that we have everything that we want and it looks okay. So we want that. We want that to be the fill of that on settings. I've created a settings page where I can just select certain things and just use the fill. So just makes it really easy to pick out different fills that I want. And then I want a label. And that's going to be our heading on the box. Let's go over here. Okay, and that's going to be company default value. Company default hours. Okay, we're going to set that in the middle. We also want the background of that text box just to be a bit darker as a heading, and we want the writing to be white. There we go. Cool. And we want some labels, text labels. So we go here, text label 1, and that's going to be company contracted hours default. Okay, let's change this to 11. Okay, so we're going to get there. What I like to do with these as well is just push them all the way to the right. There we go. And then I'll just copy and paste, Control C and Control V, makes it a bit easier. Okay, and then maximum hours. Minimum hours you can work per day. Okay, so there we got 2, and then we want to put in some text boxes. I think let's just go text inputs. Cool, I'll go there and just make that in there. 1. We want that to be 11. Control C, Control V. Okay, so that one is for that top line, and that one's for that one. Oh, alright. Cool. Okay, we don't want text input, so I can actually select 2 text boxes at the same time. We want to remove that because we just want it to be blank. Okay, cool. There is our company default ones, and then we can just copy that, Control C and Control V to get our individual user one. We're going to put there your custom hour settings. Let's just change that. Your custom hours settings. Okay, let's just update that to your contracted hours. Your contracted hours, and then maximum hours you can work per day. So just so that's clear. Okay. Alright, those are done, and then we're going to need to put some buttons in. So over here we're going to have edit button. Oh, sorry. Let's just change this to 13. So we've got an edit button, and then we want a save button as well. So let's just Control C, Control V, copy and paste the buttons, and we want a save button. Cool. All right. Let's also just label these in a way that makes sense to us. So we are going to rename this to text because we'll be referring to these. So we want to make it easy to reference. Text, so it's going to be contracted hours, and this is going to be text maximum hours. Max hours. Okay. And buttons. So this is going to be button edit. BTN. I always prefix mine with button or text and then underscore, just so I know what it is. Sometimes I put the screen on as well, just to help me identify, just because we're not playing around with screens on this, really. We'll just keep it simple. Okay. Button, save. Right, okay. So we've got those. One thing I've forgotten to do is add in the SharePoint list we created. So we want to add data. I'm going to go to SharePoint. Okay, click on SharePoint. Yes. I go to the site where I've created my SharePoint list. And demo settings is what I called it. So I'm going to click on that. Connect. Cool. Alright, let's just confirm we've got it in there. Okay, so that SharePoint list that we've created with our settings is now connected to our app. We'll go back in. We've created the default template of what our app's going to look like. Now, we want to create a little string, like a little message for the user that will show them their settings up there. So, what can we put in there? Let's create insert. Let's create a text label. Okay, we're going to put it over here so it can appear for the user to see when they log in. Okay, let's make it small, relatively small, 11. Let's make it white writing so it stands out. Okay, cool. So we don't just want text, we want to put something in there. So what are we going to put in there? Let's open it up, we'll put it in brackets, and then we'll go your contracted hours are, and then we want to put a variable in. We're going to create these variables, so they won't be there right now, but we're going to create them. So var, I always prefix my variables. We're going to say contracted hours. Okay, and these and signs are just linking strings, so it's going to go, the text here is going to show, and then whatever the value in that variable is going to show, and then it's going to be, I'm just building out this string. We'll show you how it works in a minute. So, and, well, let's just make it, and so it's easier to understand. Max hours are that. I'm putting these spaces in just so it formats the string nicely when it's shown on the screen. That again you'll see var max hours, which we'll create, and then another and just to close off the bracket at the end. Okay, now you can see it's erroring, it's going, oh, we don't know what these variables here are because we haven't created those variables. You always have to create a variable, define it before it knows. So where do we create those variables? So we only want those variables to load when the screen is created, when the screen becomes visible, then it must load those variables. Okay, so I'm just going to go into the screen. So this whole screen, there's a property over here called onVisible. So when the screen loads, basically, and then we're going to set these variables. Let's just have a look what we're going to do here. Okay, so we want to set. Now use set to create a variable. So var contracted hours. Hours. Okay, that's us creating that variable. And what value do we want that var contracted hours to have? So we're going to create an if statement. So we're going to go if is blank, and I'll show you how this works. But basically, it's saying, check if this value is blank. So is blank, and we're going to do a lookup, because we're going to look up into our SharePoint list, and it's going to be table demo settings. So look up in that. We'll run through the whole string once it's finished, just to make it make sense. Where title, help me if I could type properly. Where title is equal to the user who's logged in. Full name. Okay. And return contracted hours. Okay, we're going to close up those two. And then we're going to, if it's true, then do a lookup. Lookup in our table demo settings. This might look a bit complicated, but I'll explain it to you once it's finished. So let's title equals default. Turn contracted hours. Close that, and then lookup. Another lookup. Table settings again. Title equals user. Full name. Contracted hours. Okay. Just close off the brackets. Okay. So what is it doing here? So it's setting this variable. Now it's running an if statement, so it's if this lookup here, so where it looks up the table settings and it says, is the title column, have we got it in there, is the title column default? Okay. Lookup where the title, sorry, let me start again. Do a lookup in that that SharePoint list table where the title is the user's full name. Return the contracted hours if that's blank. So if the user isn't in there, it's going to return a blank value, and it's going to go, cool, that doesn't work. Okay, then we're going to go on to if that is true, or if it's so if it runs this and the value is returned is blank, then it will run this. Okay, otherwise it will run that. Okay, so if it runs blank, it means that the user isn't there because there's no value there. Then it will look up the default value for contracted hours. Otherwise, it will look up that user's contracted hours. Okay, so let's run through that again. So it sets up the variable. It does this lookup. So all it's doing now is it's checking if that user, whoever I'm logged in as, if it's in there, it will return a contracted hours, and that is blank will be false, which means it'll go down to this part of it. If I'm not in there, then this value will be true, because this is blank will be, it's true because I don't get a value back, and then it will revert to this default contracted hours. Okay, a little bit complicated, but hopefully you understood that. And then we're just going to copy and paste this for the maximum hours one as well. Max hours, and we just want to change this to maximum hours. It's going to be the same check. Maximum hours. Change this to maximum hours. Change this to maximum hours. Okay, again, setting the variable for maximum hours. It's checking if this blank, that's all this part of it is doing. It's going look up for the users logged in. Do they have a value for maximum hours? If yes, then go to the true setting here, do this lookup and return the maximum hours. Sorry, if no, if it is blank, then it'll go to this one, and if it isn't blank, then it will go to the user. Okay, so it's just working out whether to use the default hours, or if the user has specific hours, then use whatever the specific hours are. Okay, so that's now set up the variables, and now you can see this has gone up here, and because we haven't got a we haven't run it yet, let's just go to the main menu. Let's put in a button here that will load that screen, that will allow that variable to initialize. So we're going to put in a button, because you have to remember we put it in the is visible property. That only runs when that screen loads. So we haven't, the way we get it to load is just put a button on another screen and launch that screen. So let's put so settings screen, and then we'll just put in here on select navigate to screen underscore admin settings, yeah, transition none. Cool. Alright, so let's just look here. I'm going to click on that. Okay, cool. Can you see there? It's picked up 8 hours. Because if we go back in here, you can see we don't have a user for myself, Barry. We don't have any settings in there. So what it's gone is looked up the default settings. If I did have a line in there, then it would use my settings based on that formula for the variable that we put in. Okay, hopefully that is making a bit of sense. Alright, let's go back into here. Okay, so that's given us this little string over here. Now that can appear on any screen. We can just copy and paste it. Okay, now we want the default hours always to appear in these boxes. So that's quite simple. First of all, we don't want these to ever be changed. Now there's for any text input box, there's a property called DisplayMode, this one over here, and by default it's on edit, and edit means you can just change it. Okay, but we don't want it, we just want it to be view, which means users can only view that setting. It also changes the color of it, and we want this one to be in view as well. Now we're going to get quite heavily into display mode and how that's used to help us create this ability to update the SharePoint list as we go. But this is just default settings, so we always want these to be displayed from our SharePoint list over here. This default row that we've added is always going to be static, and those values won't change unless the company contract changed for everyone. Okay, so we use a simple lookup on here. So we're going to go into default. Now this means the default value of this text box will be, and we want to put in a formula. So we're going to do a lookup. So this basically, a lookup goes to SharePoint list, and it does a search in there. What is the SharePoint list that we want to look up? So we want to do the one that we've added in, demo settings. Okay, and what is it that we want to look up? Okay, so the condition. So we want to look up where title, the title column in the SharePoint list, is equal to default. Okay, and then once it's found that in the row, then what do we want to return? So the comma means what do we want to return? We want to return, for this one, it is our contracted hours. So return the value of contracted hours, and we're going to do another, for the other box we can put maximum hours. Okay, for contracted hours, don't forget to close the brackets. There we go. Now you can see that's filled in quite nicely. And then on this one, actually let's just copy it to make it easy. And on this one, I'm going to do down to default. What is the default value for this text box? We're going to copy it in, but this time we want maximum hours. Maximum hours, there we go. 13's just appeared, fantastic. Alright, so that's what we want. If we go into play mode, we can go in here, you can see we can click on here, try and change it, nothing happens. It just shows us the values. Okay, now we get to the next part, your custom hours. So this is where the fun begins. Okay, so let's see what we want here. So first of all, we want I think our default values in here. Okay, so this is I'm going to type it out first, and then we'll run through what we're actually doing. Okay, so first of all, we're going to our default value of our contracted hours. Let's just type out this formula, and then we can run through it. Lookup, table, demo settings, title, okay, equals user dot full name, acted hours, okay. We're going to use the variables that we've already created again. Lookup, table, settings, title, user, full name, contracted hours. Okay, now what we want here, this is for my specific settings. Okay, so what we wanted to basically go in and check in the SharePoint list, is there a value, is there a row with my name in it? If yes, then return my specific contracted hours. If there isn't a row with my name in, then give me the company contracted hours. Okay, so that's what this string is doing. It's basically going into here, looking if there's a row with my name on it. If there isn't a row with my name on it, then return my contracted hours. You can see I don't have one in there, so it's going to go, okay, there isn't one for Barry, so let's just return the default one. Okay, so that's what this is doing. So it's doing if Again, going back to this is blank lookup, all this is doing is going, is this blank true or false? So this is then going to do a lookup, and it's going into that table, says, is there a row for this user? If there is, return the contracted hours, and then it's going to go, is that contracted hours been returned or not? If it is being returned, right, that means it's true, and then it will then do the actual lookup, and then yeah, it will return the contracted hours, or it will do the lookup and return my specific contracted hours. Okay, now I'm using that variable because we had already done the lookup for the contracted hours. We don't have to do that lookup again. Okay, the contracted hours is just the contracted hours. Okay, so let's go into do the same thing for the maximum working hours. Now that's going to be same, but just doing the maximum hours. Sorry, let's just Control C. Right, default is what we're looking for. Default. Yeah, we're just going to change this to maximum hours. For hours. Maximum hours. Okay, cool. Now you can see, because I don't have a row, I haven't saved any data, it's just gone in and given me the default, which is fine. Now, what we want to do is get these edit and save buttons working. So, what do we want to do here? Let's just have a look. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to refresh what we're doing on here. 1 second. Right, so we want to set our display mode on the save button. Okay. So we only want the save mode to be enabled if we're actually editing. Otherwise, there's nothing to save. So we're going to go on here, and we're going to go on to display mode, and then we're going to set up if statement. So we're going to go if text button max hours dot display mode is equal to display mode dot view, and txt underscore contracted hours dot display mode equals display mode dot view, then display mode disabled, else display mode edit. Okay, so what this is doing is if each of these, if their display mode is in view, then set this display mode to be disabled. Otherwise, set the display mode to be edit for the save button. So if these are in edit mode, then allow us to save it, but if they're in view mode, then don't allow us to save it. Okay, and I think let's just, by default, we only want these to be in view mode, and only when you click on the edit button, then we want to turn these into display mode edit. Okay, so let's just set up on their I think on their display mode. Now we're going to set up how we're going to get display mode on these to work, because we only want these to be editable. When we click edit, we're going to have to use a variable in these display modes for these values. Okay, so let's just go on to display mode property. Okay, instead of the default display mode edit, we're going to use an if statement. If var is edit, which we'll call it, edit is edit mode display mode dot edit, else display mode is in view. Okay, we haven't created that variable yet, so I'm just going to paste this into this display mode as well. Okie dokie. Now this var is edit mode. We want to create that variable as well when we come into the screen, because that's where we want to initialize it. So again, on the onVisible, we're going to set up that variable. So set var display mode, and when the screen loads, we want that display mode to be false. I think, yeah, false. Cool. Okay, so go back to the value here. So if display mode is false, if display mode is false, and this is checking if it's true, then it means it's false, so that the display mode will be view. Otherwise, display mode is edit. If you're just putting the variable name in here, it's always checking a true value. If it's false and true, then it's false. If it's true and true, then it will be true. Okay, so right, so I think that is working. And then when we want to come in here into the edit button, okay, we want to change the display mode. So on select, so if we're going to be setting the variable, set var is edit mode, I'm going to set it to true. Okay, let's just see what happens when we come in here, play. Okay, cool. Now you can see those have gone to edit mode. You can see I can save the button. Okay, let's just check here. Right. Okay, cool. Sorry for jumping around a little bit. It's a little bit of a there's a lot to do in here in terms of doing all the settings, but hopefully you can make sense of it. Okay, so now we also want to, once we've been able to edit in here, now I can go in and change these values. Okay, I also want to be able to save them, but at the moment I'm clicking save. There's nothing happening because I haven't set up any code on the on select of the save button. So if we click on save, nothing happens, so we need to set up some code on there to do it. And to go there, we click on the save button, we go on the on select, okay, and then we're gonna type in some code. Now we're gonna do quite a complex if statement on here, because we want to do a whole lot of checks as we're going. So now, whereas before we did an is blank, we can also do a not is blank to check if something is not blank. So we're going to use that if it's not blank, and we're going to go into text underscore contracted hours dot text, which is the value in that box, and is not blank, the max hours value dot text, okay, and is not blank, lookup from our table demo settings where the title is equal to user dot full name, where the contracted hours of that, so contracted hours, okay. Then we want to do an update if, sorry, let's update if, right, table demo settings, where a title is equal to user full name. Then we want the values that we're putting in to be our contracted hours. We want the value of text contracted hours. Value, when you put value in front of it, it just forces it to be a numerical number rather than text. Okay. And we want our maximum hours to be the value of the text underscore maximum hours dot text. Okay, have we put in a comma? Yes. Okay. Okay, close off the brackets. Close off the brackets again over here. Okay, and a comma for the else value. If okay is not blank, text underscore contracted hours dot text, and is not blank, text underscore max hours dot text, and is blank, lookup table demo settings, title equals user dot full name, contracted hours. Okay, then we want to patch, which is we want to write it to SharePoint. We want to do that. Which SharePoint table do we want to write to? Demo settings. And defaults means we want a new line to be written. I'll explain this in a second, what's going on here. I'm just filling out all the code first. Okay, and then what do we actually want to put in there in terms of values? We want our title to be added, so we want to write in the name, and we want that to be the user that's logged in. Full name. We want contracted hours to be value of contracted text dot text and we want maximum hours to be the value of text underscore max in hours dot text. Okay, we want to close off the brackets there, and we want to close off the brackets. Okay, and then we want to just push a notification to file. Please ensure you have entered values into both boxes before you can save. Okay, notification. Sorry. Notification, it's gonna be error. Close brackets. Close brackets. Okay, cool. All right, so in here we are doing some checks. So if this text box is blank and that text box is blank and is not blank, if both of these have values in and the lookup from this to this SharePoint list with the user who's logged in, if the contracted hours is not blank either, that means there is a row for that user, and then it's going just update if the row for the user who's logged in, their contracted hours and maximum hours. So that's if their row already exists with some values in, whatever they've updated those values to, just update that in the SharePoint list. And this one's going if the values are not blank for each of these, and there is a blank here if the contracted hours for the user logged on is not returned, then create a new row in here with that user and put the settings in. So the reason it's looking for these is not blank here, these two values here and here and here and here, is to make sure that when I click on edit I'm actually putting a value in, otherwise it's going to send an error. So let's just check that out and see if it works. If I click on edit, okay, I'm in edit mode. Let's just go. I'm going to make this 11 and this 21. Hit on save. Cool. Let's just check on my SharePoint list if that actually came through. Cool. 11 doesn't look like it's saved in the maximum hours value. Let's just check what's happened here. Click on the save button. Why isn't it saved maximum hours? maximum hours. Strange. Contracted hours, maximum hours. Should have. Let's just check that again. Oh. Contracted hours. Maximum hours. For some reason. Oh, sorry. I'd relabeled that to wrong thing. So this is rename. Label. You can see I've made a mistake here. This should be. This one should be text maximum hours. Should be text text maximum hours. So change that to max hours there. Okay, so let's just check that again. Play. Let's go to 16 and 26 just to see. Save. Let's just check now. It should have updated those hours. Still not, for some reason. Why is that not working? Right. Let's have a look at this. Maximum hours today. Text max hours. Let's just check in here. Oh, that's why. TXT max hours. Okay. Let's check this one. TXT max hours. Okay, cool. Alright, so let's just double check that again. Play. Let's just do 15 and 25. Save. Should do it. 16, 25. Okay, cool. So now it's saving all my values in there. I also want to, you can see now it hasn't updated this little string I've got. So basically what I also need to do on my save at the bottom is I want to update a few things. So update variables. Okay, I want to set my my variable for the button display mode. So is edit mode. Sorry, just the display modes of the text boxes. We want to set those back to what they were. So we want to set that back to false. We also want to go into update the variables based on these two ones that we did in the on visible for the screen where we actually set the variables. Let's just copy those, go back to the save button, let's just paste these two lines in here, that sets that, and let's check it again. Okay, so we've got 15 and 25. Let's go to let's call it to 19 and 29 just to prove the point. Let's just save in there. Cool. Alright, you can see that's done. You can see it's also updated over here because we updated the variables. Let's just check in our SharePoint list. Okay, that's updated, so that's all working. And what else do we need? Okay, there's just this save button is not, so basically we've already saved it and you can see we can't click on there, but the save button is still in edit mode, which means we can click on it, and we don't want to be able to click on it only when it's in edit mode. So let's just go into I think it's display mode, and we are going to, I'm just going to copy and paste this because I think the video is getting a little bit long. I'm going to go into display mode. Okay, so if you can see it's because I used the wrong, I labeled the label instead of the text box. So wherever that's going to happen, it's going to cause a bit of a problem in here. Okay, cool. Now you can see the save button's disabled. Let's push play. So we're going to go edit. Cool. And what we will do, let's just make the outline of these boxes red so that when in edit mode, those go red. If we go down here and we go to border to, instead of the brown, we'll just make it a red. Cool. So in edit mode, they're going to go red. Let's just go back into play. So your contracted hours are, let's change it to 20 and 30, so we know things are changing. Click on save. There we go. That's updated there. You can see I can't click on those. You can see my save button's gone out. I can never update the company default ones. If I go in here, you can see it's 19 and 29. Let's just go into SharePoint and delete that just to prove it's working. We're going to delete. Yes. Let's go back into my Power App. Let's go into the main screen. Let's go back into settings screen. Now you can see I've deleted the row, so it's brought me back to my default settings. I go back to edit. Let's make it back to what it was, 20 and 30. Save. Cool. Let's go back in here and check. Okay, cool. I've got my row in there. Let's just prove we can. Let's go out of the app. I'm just going to save it quickly. Saved. I'm going to go out. Do I want to leave it? Yes. Give that a few minutes. I want to go back into it just to prove that the settings remain persistent. Wait for that to load. Takes a second. Sorry guys, I feel like I haven't been as clear as I'm normally in this video. Yeah, so I hope that you made sense. Feel free to drop any questions in the comments. I'll try to make it clearer if I wasn't as clear as I should be. Got a lot on my mind today, so I don't feel like I'm in a very good place, but I thought I'd share this video anyway. Okay, so if I go into the settings screen, let's go over here, settings screen. Okay, cool. You can see my settings persisted. Got my contracted hours over here. All fine and dandy. Alright, great guys, thanks for sticking with me on this video. Hopefully you learned something. As I said, sorry I haven't been as clear as I normally would like to have been, but do hit us up with any comments or questions below. We'll try and clarify what is not very clear. But thanks for sticking with us. Have a great day, and we'll catch you at the next video. Bye for now.